Well, the biggest question in Formula One has been answered, and it's been answered right here in Zandvoort at the Dutch Grand Prix. The question of Max Verstappen's future, where he may end up on the grid. The news this morning is that he will be staying at Red Bull, signing a contract extension through to 2030. There are many questions, not least why, and is this the right decision both for Red Bull and for Max Verstappen? You feel certainly for Red Bull, they have said that he is far more than a driver for the team, and he is a defining part of Red Bull racing. Lawrence Barretto, as the man who knows all too well what goes on in this paddock, what do you make of this news, firstly?
Well, it's been will he, won't he, for what, 18 months or so? Is Max going to stay? Is he going to go? He had a contract initially until 2028, and even then there was speculation about whether he was going to stay on into next year. That he signed until the end of 2030, so he's added a further 2 years to that deal. Understand there's improved financial terms, improved that it's just an overall a better contract for him. I think it shows immense commitment to Red Bull Racing. We know his management, we're talking to other teams, so we know that they were assessing the market. So he's ultimately decided this is the best place for him for the future.
The words used in the press release by Max were confidence in the team, a second family, and feels like home. It would take something immense to break that kind of bond, wouldn't it?
For sure, and I think we shouldn't put down how important it is to build that kind of relationship, to build the people around you, to build that trust. We saw Michael Schumacher do that at Ferrari and go on that incredible run. We saw Lewis Hamilton do that at Mercedes and go on that incredible run. And actually, by the end of this contract, he'll have been at the team for 15 years. Now, up until that point, Lewis had the longest stint at 12 years at Mercedes. So that just shows the kind of commitment he's got to these people and that bond that they've shared. And I think when he talks about the people, I think when he was kind of deciding, do I go elsewhere? That would have been a fundamental reason why he decided to stay.
What a legacy. You mentioned there the importance of continuity, not just for Max, but also for the team around him, I'm guessing as well, and for Laurent Mekies, who's not long into the team himself.
No, Laurent only joined in 2025, and top of his intro was actually to keep Max in position. So I think from
That's pressure, isn't it, as the number one thing on the to-do list?
Exactly, the greatest driver that the sport may ever see, and he's managed to do it. And I think that's a massive shot in the arm for him, a year or so into the job, and he's done a great job to do that. But I think what it shows is that there is this belief between Laurent and Max in each other, that Max believes in the Laurent project, because there's a rebuild going on here at Red Bull. Life after Christian Horner, a fair few people have left the team, and clearly the plan that Laurent's put in place is something that Max believes in going forward. So I think from that perspective, it is real team effort. And I think what it will do for everyone else in the team is give them confidence that, Max is staying now for the next few years. So I'll stay maybe. It might be attractive for new people wanting to join the team. It'll be good for the sponsors because they've got stability. The whole team just has this stability that the best driver from their perspective on the grid is staying put.
Yeah, the belief in the project. We know there were other opportunities on the table, or certainly other opportunities his team were exploring. What were they?
Well, firstly, it makes sense, I think, to go and explore because you want to know what the best thing is out there and you want to have the strongest hand when you're negotiating with Red Bull for your new deal, as has been the case now. His management talked to McLaren. It was a bit of a curveball, to be fair, to go to talk to them because obviously Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri have got deals at that team for the foreseeable future. But Zach Brown entertained that chat. So I think that's what was interesting fundamentally there. Then Mercedes, I think there's been this on-off kind of discussion with Toto Wolff over the last 18 months or so as to whether or not there would be a chance for him to move to the Silver Arrows in the future. Ferrari were locked out. So I think it was those two teams that were key. There was always that outside potential, if Aston Martin had made that step, maybe they would have come into the picture, but they obviously really struggled this year. So that kind of narrowed his options. So I think from his perspective, it was those two, Mercedes and McLaren, and then it was whether or not to stay Red Bull. But I think the feeling was always, I'm probably going to stay there, but let's just go check out what's going on with the other two teams and see if I can kind of get the best deal possible for myself.
He already had a deal, didn't he, through to 2028? So there were years left on the table in that contract. So why do you think the significance of extending this year, but also extending here at the final Dutch Grand Prix?
So I think within that terms of the last contract, there were clauses in place, whereas if they didn't hit a certain level of performance, he could leave early. And I think the idea of signing this new deal is just showing commitment on both sides, because I think if Max had just come out and said, I'm staying till the end of his last deal, which would be in the end 28, I still think there would have been that ongoing speculation of, is he going to stay for, the end of 27? Is he going to stay to the end of 28? What is he going to do? As was the case last year. Because do you remember we had that presser, we said, right, I'm staying for 26. Yeah, but you've got your contract till 28. So I think they probably wanted to get rid of that for this year. But I think Red Bull would they need a commitment too from Max that he's going to stay. They don't want to go through this process every single year because it's destabilising for the team to have to continuously talk. I remember Laurent Mekies was saying, like, I can't ask Max every week if he's staying put. Like, that's just not conducive to like a good working practice. So I think from that perspective, it was important for him to lock him down for the long term. So that's an extra 4 years now that he's going to be at the team. And I think that will allow Max to kind of just focus fully on what he's doing, allow Red Bull to focus on what they're doing. And they've got a big job on their hands, haven't they? To, catch Mercedes, catch McLaren, catch Ferrari and get back to winning ways.
It's not just about losing results if you lose Max Verstappen, but what those results also mean and signify, and that is sponsorship, financial investments. That is, they're standing within the Formula One paddock. Commercially, there's huge impact as well. How far were Red Bull willing to go, do you think? I know you probably don't know the ins and outs of the contract, but do you have any inkling of what may have been added here to further incentivize Max to stay?
So I've talked to senior members of the team about the last contract, and it was described to me as eye-watering figures, of the last deal. And we know that this deal is a step forward on what it was beforehand. So I think that it is going to be meteoric, shall we say, the kind of deal that he signed. But it was also told to me that Max Verstappen, for them, is the best driver in the world. So he's worth it. And I think Red Bull is showing that it's just worth making that investment. And I think when you're as strong as Max, and it's not just speed on track, it's the way he galvanizes a team, it's the way he is within that operation. I think you get so much more. And at that extent, it made it worth it to spend that money. So I think from Red Bull's perspective, I'm sure they had to dig deep into their pockets, but I'm sure they will see that it's worth it over the next 4 years.
And the risk as well of losing him to a rival team, not just what that will feel like, the sting of that, but also the repercussions. If you lose him to a McLaren, you lose him to a Mercedes, it's huge.
It's a double whammy, isn't it, really? Because you lose the best driver for yourself, but then you have to go up against him, against a rival team. And look, they've got some nice, exciting drivers coming through. Hadjar, unfortunately, not racing this weekend with that injury, but has had a great first half of the season. You've got Lindblad doing a great job of racing bulls. You've got a lot of progress coming through. But what is interesting is that
I'm going to just stop you there. You've got Laurent Mekies just coming through as we're just filming a quick feast, and you are the happiest
congratulations
man in the paddock right now. Congratulations. Smiles beaming around that corner, Laurent.
We have the best job in the world. Why wouldn't be smiling? And then we have a couple of very, very good news today. So no, it's a great news. It's the best driver on the grid, and to have him making this sort of statement means the world for the team, and means the world also for having the right pillars for the future.
Well, a huge statement of intent. Thanks, Laurent.
Thank you.
We didn't plan that, honestly.
No, that was such wonderful timing, wasn't it?
To get Max locked down for the foreseeable future when he was looking elsewhere, it's a huge, so I'm not surprised he's happy. But I think Red Bull have got a lot of good drivers coming through, but they haven't got that statement driver yet, which I think is why it was so important to keep Max in position at that team. Otherwise, they would have had to go and look out for someone probably more experienced. So yeah, great job from Red Bull all round.
And just a quick word on Hadjar. How do you think that driver pairing is progressing, developing? Obviously, he's not racing here. Wish him all the very best in recovering from that wrist injury. But it seems a nice fit so far, doesn't it? And certainly Hadjar in that second Red Bull seat, in this car, in these regs, in this era, is performing.
To be fair to Max, he's got on with all of his teammates, frankly. So I think that's a good start. And with Isaac, it's no different. But I do think that they have a really good personality mix. I think Isaac hasn't been worried or under pressure from racing alongside Max. He's been able to get the best out of him. So actually, I think they work really well as a driver pairing. Isaac got a really good kind of speed out of that car in the second seat. Kind of, we don't talk about the Red Bull curse of the second seat anymore, do we? Because he's done, it feels like it's long gone, because I think Isaac's done such a great job this year. So yeah, I think for now, Red Bull can look to the foreseeable, and they can look at that pairing and be very comfortable with what they've got and be very happy with the drivers that are coming through Racing Bulls in the future.
Well, so many eyes were on Max Verstappen, and in him deciding his future, what impact that could have on the rest of the grid. Now that that piece of the puzzle has been fixed, what of the rest of this paddock? Where do you see them falling? What impact does this have?
Well, essentially, Max's seat at Red Bull was the last big remaining seat available of the top 4 teams, because obviously McLaren are locked out with Oscar and Lando, Ferrari are locked out with Lewis and Charles. Mercedes are locked out with George and Kimi. So I think the rest of the field were maybe just waiting that if Max, decided to retire, to Pato left, for example, there might be the potential. So now I think we're going to see some dominoes kind of fall into place. We saw a couple, obviously, fall before the weekend, with Williams deciding that Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz are going to be with them for next season. Carlos actually signed a multi-year deal, so he'll be there for at least 2 years. There's kind of clauses in the contract that can let him out in 2027, but he's staying for an extra 2 years, whereas Alex's is an extra year.
Yeah.
So I think from Williams, it's really important, isn't it? I think from a stability perspective, they've had a really tough year this year from a performance perspective. Fair play to James Vowles for getting them to sign back up again, because they're among the most sought after drivers on the grid. So I think it shows belief in the project from both sides. So from that perspective, I think it's a real positive for these guys. And I think it will kind of be one of a series of steps of the rest of the field kind of getting their ducks in a row as well.
What is the significance of Sainz signing multi-year and Alex Albon signing just the 1 year?
So I think Williams are very happy to keep both of them. So I think the fact that they both renewed for at least 1 year is positive. I think on Carlos's side, it's a longer commitment, and I think that will suggest more favourable terms for that deal because he's committing for the longer term. He shows more belief, say, in that project. I think with Alex, he's got that year. I think there are mechanisms in place, obviously, he can stay beyond that, but it then gives him a bit more freedom to kind of assess the market for 28 going forward. Carlos really believes in the project, and I think he wanted to really knuckle down and see what best deal he could get out of this as well.
Alonso.
Yeah.
Fernando Alonso at Aston Martin. Is that the final piece of the puzzle to fall for the driver market, do you believe?
I think so, because now as we move down the kind of pecking order, the Aston seat, and this might sound strange given their form so far this year, but it remains one of the most sought after on the grid because of that investment that Lawrence Stroll has put in. So I think there will be a desire to wait until Fernando commits either way, whether or not he's going to stay or go, before others maybe sign on the dotted line with their respective teams or elsewhere. Because I think the future is bright for that team. It's just unclear when that is. So I think we're going to wait to see whether Fernando will stay. I'm hearing it's most likely he will stay. He said he was going to take the summer to kind of assess his options there. But yeah, once Fernando goes, then I think it will kind of trickle down. There's a couple of seats, the Haas seat, Esteban Ocon's been under pressure. So there's going to be a bit of talk about whether or not he'll be able to stay in that seat, or they'll bring some fresh new talent into there. And Racing Bulls, I think, to decide whether or not Liam Lawson or Arvin Lindblad. And actually, that's a big weekend this weekend, isn't it, for those guys? Liam doing a job at Racing Bulls, Red Bull rather, Yuki Tsunoda coming in at Racing Bulls as well and fighting for his future really as well. So there's a few things to unpick, but it's pretty significant what we've seen today. And I think we'll see a few more dominoes fall now with the driver market.
So Red Bull have secured one enormous victory already this weekend. That is the signing of Max Verstappen through to 2030. But words on paper mean one thing, results on the track are quite another. Red Bull have seen the weakest of the top 4 teams so far this season, certainly in this new era that we're seeing, these new regulations that we're seeing. What of their form? Have Red Bull taken that step forward, and what are the development rates that they're seeing through this season?
I think what we can probably take from this Max deal is that he's seen enough behind the scenes to suggest that A, they know where they're going and what they need to do. B, that there is good stuff in the pipeline in the short and medium term, because he won't want to hang about and wait to get a car that can fight for that victory. So I think he will have seen that in the background. But they have got a massive job to do, because obviously Mercedes are still the class leaders. Ferrari and McLaren have brought so many updates this year, and they continue to make those little steps. Red Bull, when they've brought a package like in Miami, it's done the job. So I think what he's going to be hoping is that there are going to be more of those packages coming forward. And it's obviously a big weekend for him here. The last race at Zandvoort for him, his last home race. So he'll want to have a good weekend. But I think what we can take from this announcement is that there are good steps, but they definitely need to deliver those steps and quickly, because Red Bull, Max won't want to wait too long to be fighting for wins again.
What a race to test this all out. What a way to announce it. Max Verstappen will be staying at Red Bull through to 2030. He announces it here on home soil for one last ride of the Dutch Grand Prix.